Hello, everyone, and welcome. It's Friday. It's Chat with Mac. We're glad to have you. If you're new here, we're also glad to have you. We're just happy that it's Friday. Nadeem has been a trooper. The man got the vaccine, and excuse me, this child thing has been going off all day. Yeah, it's been going off all day. But yeah, Nadeem, how you feeling, man?
Oh, feeling much better today. I was gonna go to bed early yesterday, but then it was my grandkid's birthday, so we went and did all
Oh,
that. So I didn't get, but I feel much better. Like every day, it's like almost 30% improvement. So I
good.
think I'm on the tail end now, and I'm good to go. Unfortunately, it happens to be close to the weekend, so hey.
Crazy, crazy. So, we want to talk about some craziness this week. Nadeem and I, every time someone sees our videos, we're talking about security. Well, it has to be top of mind. So that's one of the reasons we're doing this. But, Nadeem said something. I remember it was the early part of last year when all this craziness started happening. And one thing he said over the course of a few of our podcasts was, it's going to get a lot worse before it gets better. And I mean, true to word, that's exactly what's been going on. Nadeem, tell us about what happened with Facebook. I think this week or last week.
Yeah. So, uh, and it's not just Facebook. I mean, it's happening everywhere.
Everywhere.
Uh, a lot of the smaller businesses, we just don't hear about it because it's not something that they have to publicly announce.
Right.
Larger corporations, they have to announce it when there's a breach, so we get to find out about that. Uh, and I think it's still we're still on the path of we haven't hit that top of that curve, so it's going to be a bell curve. So we haven't
Yeah.
hit the top of the curve. We're going to get there, but we're not there yet. So we should anticipate more and more breaches happening as we are becoming more security conscious in the business space. So I'm talking about just regular business owners and businesses out there, decision makers, as they get more security conscious, the bad guys are putting more resources into their hacking and breaching attempts as well, because they are seeing that there is pushback, there is better security for some companies. So one of the things that we've started doing internally, and if you are our customer, you may have gotten these notices, our pricing structure is changing. I mean, we are overhauling a lot of stuff to be to set our focus on security first. And one of the things that we are starting to implement is what we do with our fixed cost outsourcing customers, which is our process. And that's really the secret sauce when it comes right down to it. We're an IT company like any other IT company. Companies talk about tools, which everybody has tools. Companies talk about how my technology is better than their technology. It's pretty much the same. The technology, the components, that all pretty much is the same. What's different is the process. That's what differentiates companies. It's the process. Anything else, anybody else can buy or rent or use. It's the process that is hard to develop. And that's what we developed was for our fixed cost outsourcing customers. We developed that process that automatically over time standardizes everything and brings the entire organization into a higher ring of security. The process automatically makes customers more secure. So the longer we implement that process with customers, the more secure they get. This is not something that anybody else can go out and say, okay, well, PCSN uses this tool, so I'm going to get this tool and I'm automatically magically more secure. Or my costs are automatically magically going to become very low. What my cost will be if I'm going with PCSN's fixed cost outsourcing. That's not how it works. The secret sauce is that process that we have behind everything that a lot of times customers don't know the amount of effort that went into tuning that process and an ongoing method that goes around it to tune that over time to accommodate for different things. So that's our secret sauce. That's what differentiates us from a lot of other companies when it comes to security. Now, what we have here is, and this is, one of the reports that we get is basically it's a team of people that all they do is security. They're monitoring breaches all around the world, and they create this report for this market. It's for the United States market. So I'm going to share my screen real quick, and I'm going to show you what has transpired and what happened. So let's. All right. So this week there's a few things that happen, and the main thing that Mac that you were talking about is a huge Facebook leak. Now,
big deal, yeah.
This actually exposed personal data for a lot of people. I mean, we're talking about millions. I mean, everybody's on Facebook, right? Everybody's got a Facebook account. There's been people who have closed their Facebook accounts, but they can't live without it, and they opened it again several times. Everybody has a Facebook account. Now this breach is focused on the US and the India market. And I don't know what that correlation is. We don't have all the details yet, but the breach is for customers in US and India markets, which is really odd. And they, they did mention the name of the gang that's behind it. So that's, that's what's happening right now. But before we get into the detail, the minutia of the Facebook attack, let's just go through our list on what all happened. So the first thing is a children's charity up in New York, the New York Foundling, right? So they had an unsecured database. Now this is amateur hour right here. It was a database, unsecured, exposed to the internet. It's almost like having a big target on your door saying, hey, my door is never locked. Okay, I understand it's a charity, it's a nonprofit. They maybe don't have the resources. But you know what? The charity is probably paying pretty handsomely to somebody to maintain their IT infrastructure, to maintain those databases, to maintain those records. I mean, so this is, in this day and age, this should not happen. It doesn't matter if you're a charity, if you're a nonprofit, if you're a for-profit, or whatever it is, anything in between. It shouldn't happen. So that happened, and a bunch of records got breached. And we're not going to go into a lot of the details, but I want to get quickly into Facebook. Now, the exploit with Facebook is a hacking exploit, and there is a lot of personally identifiable information that Facebook keeps, and in short we call this pie. So there's a lot of pie that Facebook has. For example, if you have the Facebook app on your phone, let's say if you have an iPhone and you have the Facebook app, go ahead and open that Facebook app. And in the iPhone, you know how you see that little indicator top right when your location services are active, when any application is using location services?
Yep.
So when you open the Facebook app, you'll notice that something right then and there hits that location icon that blinks up. So what's happening is that tells me that Facebook, whenever you open the app, it is accessing your location information. That's personally identifiable information. Over time, it can reveal your habits to whoever has access to that data. And that's how Facebook knows so much about you. Sometimes it's almost like you're thinking of something and Facebook knows what you're thinking of. And it's based on all this type of data that it collects. And that was just an example I gave you of the location services, but Facebook collects a lot of data. So when this data gets into the bad hands, nothing good is going to come out of it. Now, we're talking about millions of records, including phone numbers, contact information. And so the word from Facebook is that, excuse me, the word from Facebook is that this breach occurred because of a vulnerability that the company patched in 2019, right? So this was a known vulnerability that they patched in 2019, which was used. I mean, it's just astounding. Look at this. So some actual numbers. I said millions. Here it is. 533 million Facebook users from 106 countries. 32 million records from the US. I mean, hopefully my name is not in there. I don't use my real name anyway, so yeah, I mean, I guess a good thing for that. Now, of course, Facebook is cracking down on it. If you don't use your real name, they will ultimately block or cancel your account. But
yeah,
what are you going to do? So,
right.
But the thing is, you know, it's now that information is out there. Out of those 32 million people, even if 10% of those people fall for some kind of scam because somebody calls them and they make up some story, or they pretend to be their neighbor or somebody they were talking to on Facebook, they pretend to be that person and they want them to send them, you know, $100. It's an emergency. Yeah, those normal scams that happen. Yeah. Even if 10% of that 32 million fall for that, that's a huge amount for the bad guys.
Yeah.
So, people, if you have users that are using social media applications, that are using accounts, anything that is tied back to your company domain, then you need to monitor the dark web. So if a breach or something like this happens, you get immediate notification. And if a certain user's credentials get breached over and over, it's time to have a nice chat with that user. What are you doing? Where are you going? Why are you the only one who's getting breached and not nobody else's account? The thing is, it's not an out of sight, out of mind type of deal. If a breach occurs and you don't know about it, the breach is still there. The data is still getting out there.
Yep.
And if somebody uses the company email address to sign up, let's say on Facebook, and it gets breached, what is it going to look bad for?
Yep.
I mean, it's one thing it's going to look bad for the user itself, but more so it's going to look bad for the company. Especially if it's a retail-based operation that uses Facebook for marketing and those purposes. I mean, that's going to be really bad.
So, and not to cut you off, but it's funny you should bring this up. I can't tell you how many times, and you know, when I make my calls, you know, one of the things we do is that what Nadeem was talking about is with dark web. It's a dark web report that we send out to people that we talk to. I wish you could hear some of the near gasp and the complete silence that happens when I send them the report and they open it in my, you know, over the phone, and they're like, whoa, we have 141 credentials that are compromised? How did this happen? I'm like, I don't know, but you might want to talk to Nadeem soon.
Yeah. And it's, I mean, the thing is, like, we've had an instance before, and I think I was on a call with somebody, I forget the name of the company, but we were on the call and we told them that so-and-so email is breached, and we gave them the name. Now, we didn't know who the owner of the business was, or, you know.
I remember that.
And when we gave him that email address, and the guy was a little silent, this was the IT admin, and he was a little silent. He was like, and I was like, well, is that a real email? Who is that? And he was like, oh, That's the owner of the company.
And the funny thing is that I was actually on site. This thing that Nadeem was talking about, I was actually on site when Nadeem did the report, and when he did the report, and he found out that the email was on there, but also the personal information or the pie.
Yeah.
And when he read off the pie, I swear to you, they almost went completely ghost. Like they looked and they looked at each other. Not only did the IT guy, but the president, IT guy, and the CFO kind of looked at each other like, they're like, yeah, that's the owner. That's the owner. And I'll never forget the look on their face when they saw that this information was out there on the dark web. So yeah, it's a real thing,
So, the process that we use to secure companies, it's basically just a few steps. You take first step, then you take second step, then you take third step, and you just take these steps, and you just keep taking them over and over. And it's not. It seems complex, but it's not really complex. It's easy. It's little things that you have to keep track of. For example, let me give you an example. So, customers ask me, and it's like, well, how can we know if somebody's machine is breached or hacked? How can you tell? The bad guys are so good you can't tell if a machine is breached. Or how can you tell if a machine is being breached? It's under attack. How will you know? And almost, I want to say 90% of companies out there, they do not know. They don't have a system in place to know if their machines are being attacked. And when your machines are being attacked, that's when you want to focus on blocking that machine, to block that attack. Yep. That's when you want to take action. Not after the attack is already done and the machine is already compromised. By that time, it's already too late.
Yep.
Right? So you want to have things in place that can detect, and it's a simple way to detect that. The question becomes, well, how would we know? It's easy. Monitor the logs. Back from Windows 3.1 days, that was the first version of Windows that came out after DOS. We have something called event logs. And if you go into the system and security event logs, you can see all the logs about all the services, about all the users that are logging in, services that are logging in, failed attempts, authorized attempts, approved attempts, privileged attempts. You see all these things. All you have to do is monitor the log. That will alert you if a machine is under attack. You can take action. It will tell you if a machine has been breached. You can take action. So there are things you can do just simply by monitoring the logs.
That's it.
But 90% of the companies out there are not doing that.
Nope.
And a lot of the larger corporations are monitoring the logs on their server, but they're not monitoring the logs on the user machines because it's not practical. Let's say a company with 200 machines, 200 users, how are they going to monitor the logs on all these machines? Well, actually, it's relatively easy. You don't put a human in front of each machine to monitor the logs. You have an automated system that monitors the logs. The automated system then learns from the behavior of that machine. And then whenever there's anomalous behavior, it triggers it, and then the human gets involved. Hey, okay, well, this login attempt failed 20 times in the last 2 seconds. It was coming from this IP address. The user is trying to log in with multiple usernames, different passwords. Obviously, they're trying to break in.
Yep.
They're coming from maybe multiple IP addresses even. But all those IP addresses are based out of China. Well, now it's simple. Now you block all Chinese IPs and boom, there you go.
Yep.
But the thing is, you won't even know what's happening until you monitor it. And, I used to go through the logs when I would meet, people around security, and I used to go through the logs. But pretty soon I realized it became a hassle because some of these machines out there would have so many logs that you cannot individually go through them. You got to dump them into a system where it can categorize them for you. and then it's pretty automatic. I mean, like, like what we do is, if something needs attention, it simply turns red. So we know machine so and so needs attention. So out of 1,000 machines, and we have about 1,000 nodes that we monitor. So about 1,000 machines, there's only going to be a few that turn red, and then we kind of dig deeper into that. Why are those turning red? And then we can also learn from different organizations. So, and I've seen this happen before, where an attack might start in Europe, and then we get prepped for it because the attack is coming from, I'm just using the word China. It could be Russia, whatever.
It could be, yeah, so, right.
so we see this attack coming from, let's say, Russia, and it started in Europe, and then now we know the IPs to block. We block them, and then we start seeing them trying to hit the US IPs, but we've already blocked that. So we were ahead of the curve. And what are these now? These guys are not individual people sitting there trying to break into machines. These are automated processes. The way the automated process works is they will try to break in. As soon as they detect you've got protection in place and you're blocking them, they're going to move on. They're going to go to the next guy.
Yep.
They're going to go to the easy target.
Yep.
The main goal of the automated process is to process as many in as least amount of time as possible, so you can make that attack surface bigger. And then once you get into a machine, you get access, then the human gets involved, and that's when you get the ransomware or whatever have you. Some of the attacks are even so sophisticated that it's automatically going to encrypt your machine. It gets access, all automatic. It encrypts your data, all automatic. It sends you the notice of ransomware, all automatic. There's this Russian guy with a cigar in his mouth just laughing at us, because it's all automatic. All he has to do is just count his cash.
Yeah. Ugh. Yeah.
So,
and it's happening on a regular. I mean, that's the crazy thing. It's, I remember, again, if any of you have not had a chance to look at the earlier videos that we've done, especially last year, again, Nadine was saying that this is going to happen. And especially small businesses, we try to pound that message over and over again. It's the small businesses that are really going to suffer from these attacks. Yeah. But the tools are there to prevent that from happening. It's just a matter of you taking that. So yeah.
Yeah, I think we talked about setting up a webinar. So we'll we'll do that webinar. And I want to keep it really short, about maybe 20 minutes on the webinar, and then do a 10-minute Q&A, because I think the real value is going to come out of the Q&A.
It is.
Not only will we be able to answer your questions, but we will get more feedback as to what you as the user are thinking when it comes to security. Yeah. So that will kind of help us understand the user state of mind, because sometimes we in IT, we think a certain way. We got blinders on, so we don't see what the user sees. We only see this, and we're like, oh, but that's easy, that's simple. How can a user do that? But because it's the user is seeing that, they have a much wider vision, a different perspective, and the Q&A will help us understand that perspective, and maybe make some tweaks to our process to make things easier and better for customers.
That's good.
So I think that's going to be an awesome webinar. I don't know who all is going to be there. We might have some people who specialize in, I don't want to say hacking, but let's call them ethical hackers, right?
Ethical hackers, yeah.
but no, it's an awesome opportunity to get your questions answered. And what's going on with Facebook and SolarWinds earlier, Ubiquity. I mean, all these big names that we know of. Keep in mind, behind every big name that you know of, there's at least 100 small businesses that have been hit that we don't know about.
That we know nothing about. Yeah.
So think about that, and we'll come see you next week. How's that?
Awesome.
So no, I mean it's really I mean everything's been stepped up. The the bad guys are so efficient, and they're not only efficient from a technology perspective, but they are good business people too. I mean, they're running these they're running these enterprises as real businesses.
Yeah.
And they're making a lot of money. They're
Yeah.
making a lot of profit, and that's why they're still in business.
Yep.
I mean, it just boggles the mind. If they would only have a legal business, it'd be so much better. But
it seems like the name of the game is cause people pain, make them pay for their pain, and then you make a ton of money from their pain because of whatever. I guess that's what's going on.
I guess the difference is, so when we talk to prospects, we try to understand the existing pain that the prospect has that we can solve, that we can ease.
Right.
What the bad guys are doing is they are creating new pain for the company. So they don't even need to understand your pain. They're just going to create a new pain for you.
And you're going to pay for that pain to go away. It's when you look at it, it's ingenious. I mean, it really is.
Yeah, and very profitable.
Very profitable.
Guys, I mean, if any business owners out there, if you have your own IT departments, and a lot of companies do, you have your own IT admins, you want to make sure that you are monitoring those logs.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of these database breaches that we see, SQL database breached here, a database breached over there, a vulnerability discovered. All this could have been detected by just looking at the logs. Yeah. What that tells me is it's a broken process.
Yeah.
Vulnerabilities are going to happen. I mean, 2,000 years in the future, we might be on Mars, but vulnerabilities are going to happen.
Yeah.
It's just what it is. I mean, everything is vulnerable. Whether it's a human, whether it's a computer, whether it's a car, everything has a vulnerability. The thing is, your process should accommodate for these vulnerabilities.
That's right.
And if it can accommodate for these vulnerabilities, then you're good.
Yep, that's right. Yep.
So I say we call it a day at that.
Yes, sir.
So everybody have a great day and be safe out there. And Mac, you do the same.
Yes, sir. You too. Get some rest, sir.
Yep. Thank you.
All right. Bye.
Bye-bye.